Alright, today's players are Banazama and Chykka. Let's see. I don't recall their records offhand, but they clearly made top 8. Alright, Bana's team is comprised of Ragna, Hazama, and Shishigami. Chykka is comprised of Iaquis, Chun-Li, Treasure Knight. They are revealing their first characters now, so let's go right to the match. Alright, round 1 going to be Treasure Knight versus Shishigami. Treasure Knight, a notably tanky, resource-intensive character from Season 4, that's Shovel Knight. Shishigami, a highly flexible, all-rounder, a ninja from Season 5, that's Blaze Blue. If anyone in chat wants to confirm that audio is good, I would appreciate that. Yeah, let's just... Whoops. As you can see, I forgot to limit the room size. Alright, tossing the coin first player, here we go. Bang going first. Revealing an unshuffled deck. I like to call that the Mad Maneuver, after my friend Mad Norder, who is notable for doing that by accident a lot. Alright, Chykka has completed... Well, I should say Treasure Knight has completed his mulligan. Bang's still thinking about his. Bang mulls 3. Alright. Turn 1 to Bang. Bang is a character with a variety of potent openers. So I'm curious what we're going to see here. Whether he'll play conservatively or aggressively. Find out soon. Treasure Knight's a character with interesting options. He has a decent amount of guard on his specials, which makes him capable of trading with projectiles in a way that Bang-style Shuriken in particular finds rather annoying. So Bang-style Shuriken is a very low damage but high utility card with a before effect that lets him play a boost from his hands. Let me just get confirmation here. Alright, Bang prepares on turn 1. Okay, thank you for confirming this. Okay, now I'll go on talking without concern. So, Bang-style Shuriken is a highly versatile card. At speed 6, it is above curve at range 4. Even at range 3, it's above curve, meaning very often you can rely on being faster than your opponent. Then the ability to play a boost from your hands means that you can play a movement boost to potentially evade your opponent and get out of range. So it has tremendous versatility in being able to zip around the board at speed 6. It's kind of like a weird version of Cross. It is actually slightly more versatile than that, of course, because you can also do things like parry or tech, or other niche uses. Where's that boost? Larger than life is a favorite of many players, since you basically turn it into a semi-assault. It's 2 power at speed 6. Yep. Alright. Treasure Knight spends 1 force to move forward 1 to range 3. I am not a particularly experienced Treasure Knight player. I kind of picked him up as a sub-main, mostly for the pun, because he lives in a submarine. But I haven't played him in a while, and I certainly would say I have not mastered him to the extent that Chykka has, and I think there's another community member that I've seen play Treasure Knight to great effect. So, I'm really glad to see people developing him. But I don't know what we're going to see here. Range 3 suggests a dive charge, since that's kind of an easy answer to Shuriken. It also suggests the possibility of an EX assault. Where's dive charge? Alright, Bang initiating with a single card. It's dive. Undercurve it does the job. Alright, that's 5 power, over 2 armor, does 3 damage. Does not stun that focus, so Treasure Knight will draw a card. Looks like both players are using Season 2 normals. I am personally grateful for this, so whenever y'all watch this later, thank you. This makes it very easy for me and the audience to just read what's going on. Alright, turn goes Treasure Knight. He's at range 1. This is usually a comfortable range for Treasure Knight, at least again in my limited expertise. Expertise is even too strong a word. In my limited familiarity with the character. Alright, going to initiate a strike. This suggests something reasonably safe, like a sweep or, well, the other focus. Possibly a grasp to control positioning. Even a cross if he actually wants to be out of melee range. All of these things have counters. That's just the nature of playing against a character like Bang. Notably, even range 1 sweep here is beatable by Void Tempest Kick. It is sweep. Going to outspeed that focus. This will be a fairly even trade. The hit effect on sweep hits first, discards a card at random from Bang's hands. And then both players take 4 damage, but the focus will draw a card afterward. Did have the Void Tempest Kick, but did not call out the mix-up successfully. Yeah, so Void Tempest Kick is what we call a range 1 spike. It's not an actual copy of Spike, right? It's not the same card. But at range 1, it beats focus and sweep, which is notable because none of the other normals beat them, at least not quite so hard. It's very, very hard to prevent focus and sweep from getting at least some of their value. Cross does beat sweep cleanly at range 1, but it doesn't prevent focus from drawing a card. Being able to stun those cards at range 1 makes them less safe as defensive or, as we saw in this case, offensive options, which is very powerful for making the opponents feel like their options are limited, even if technically they can play whatever they want. I'm told by Gaboxel in the audience that Chykka's Treasure Knight has a 100% win rate. I'm assuming you mean in tournament, but maybe you mean forever. I don't know. Alright, looks like we saw prepare action. Pass turn back to Treasure Knight. So far it looks like Bang is playing fairly conservatively. Wants to have a lot of tools on hand to deal with whatever Treasure Knight plays. Means we're probably going to see a slower, more patient game that might change when Bang exceeds. It usually does. Depends a lot on the player, depends a lot on the circumstances though. Bang's a very flexible character. Alright. Treasure Knight paying a force to boost diving suits. When you're hit, you may spend 2 force. If you do, plus 3 armor. Interesting. Really wants to be sure of that armor, since this is not efficient, right? Like, that's an ultra that costs a force, and then you have to pay 2 additional force. It's a high cost for 3 armor. It also takes a turn to get into play. However, that 3 armor can often make the difference when it comes to breakpoints. So if 3 armor is what you need to not get stuns, or what you need to trade up, it might be worth it. The Telegraph, just like I think every other time that I see, is Dive Charge. I'm a little overeager calling out Dive Charge, because in my opinion it's like the most versatile of Treasure Knight specials. Knowing how to use the rest of his kit is probably more essential to being able to play a Treasure Knight effectively. But I can't not look at Dive Charge and be like, yeah, this card is just super reliable, especially if you tack any amount of stats onto it. Right? With plus 3 armor, that's 3 armor, 3 guards. Amazing. Alright, what do we got? We have plus 1 speed, now advance 2 and strike. Alright. Paying that force cost with the assaults, advancing to range 2, striking. Well, the Telegraph is spike, but obviously this could be a cross, or even an unstoppable palm thrust. What are we going to see here? Okay, that anchor launch is going to go real well here. Alright, Unstoppable Palm Thrust is much faster. It does push 2, and now Treasure Knight has a choice. Does he pay 2 force, which is really 1 force because of his character ability? And he does. Alright, so he has 5 total armor thanks to the 2 printed on ankle launch, and then 3 from the boost. Yeah. So he takes no damage, and then Bang, because Treasure Knight was not stunned, cannot close in. So he gets hit by the anchor launch, takes a bunch of damage, loses a card at random, which we saw was that Fatal Eruption over there. Which technically should be under the boost, or under the other boost, but it doesn't matter here. And then pulled Bang to range 2. Bang did gain advantage, and it looks like he prepared with that, and then Treasure Knight prepared in turn. Both players stalking back up. Kind of a reset to neutral, but Treasure Knight definitely won that exchange. Good call out. Yeah, that ankle launch notably would have lost really, really hard to a Spike. But Spike is kind of always the mix-up, like that is the standard mix-up card at ranges 2 and 3. Alright, both players prepare again. 7 cards total on both sides. I know Treasure Knight's glad to have those resources. Bang just looking for options, most likely. Like every character in Season 5, he is somewhat resource-intensive, but in my opinion, less so than Treasure Knight. Treasure Knight, I think, needs to burn a lot of resources to do things, which is why I value his Exceed mode pretty highly. But again, don't take my word for this, right? Chykka has piloted Treasure Knight to this point in the tournament, so let's see what he does. Alright, defend. +1 armor, +3 guard. That is one of the normals. Interesting. That's 1 fewer copy of Spike to threaten. So by playing this, you're kind of suggesting to the opponent that I'm not really planning on playing Spike against you. Which is interesting, because Treasure Knight tends to be tanky. So a card that can ignore armor and guard is often very valuable. Alright, Treasure Knight's turn. Looks like Treasure Knight checking his own discard pile. Getting a sense of what options are left in that deck. Yeah, a lot of people check their opponent's discard piles, but I think it's also worthwhile to keep an eye on yours if you're not keeping track of what cards you're drawing, because routinely refreshing yourself on what's left in your deck gives you a sense of what your wild swing probabilities are like, which means that you can more comfortably react either defensively or initiate offensively with wild swings at particular ranges. Just depends on the character. Alright, what do we have? +1 power, +1 armor, and a hit effect to return a card from discard to hands. This boost is actually a perfect example of breakpoints in action with that dive charge that I keep on coming back to. With 1 extra power, 1 extra armor, dive charge has 4 defense, so it no longer loses to assault. And the push 3 interacts with a focus to make it deal 7. Oh, that actually isn't a breakpoint, is it? Oh, my mistake. Well, still, I'll take the +1 power. Alright. Bang boost fierce. Committing harder to this strike. Possibly also just trying to get normals out of the hands for fear of a possible reading. I believe we've seen 1 focus drop on Treasure Knight's side, but not both. This turn goes Treasure Knight. And going to tech one of those boosts, looks like the Fierce. Alright. Treasure Knight clearly looking to just trade and trade up consistently. Wants to grind out a win through attrition. It's actually a phrase I've used about a lot of characters, just because if you can win by attrition, why wouldn't you? But yeah, this just gives him an edge in trading. That +1 power does matter for some breakpoints, but not many. The armor actually is kind of funny, because the armor means that without another power boost in play, or another power boost in hands, Bang Style Shuriken doesn't stun anything, which dramatically diminishes its utility. Whereas Bang will usually have access to another power boost, especially with this many cards in hand. Alright, striking. What'll we see? Will it be the Polarizing Blast Jutsu, hoping to trade up? The Cross, trying to escape. The Shuriken for flexible options. The Dive to jump over and dodge. Second copy of Spike. What do we got? It is the Cross. Whew. Well, that's the risk. Yep. So crossing into an anchor launch is going to be devastating for Bang. So Treasure Knight can choose to invalidate this, since this is a wild swing, but there's no reason to, because it is the perfect answer. With 3 total armor, he takes no damage, then he'll hit for 7. 2 hit effects. The opponent, Bang, discards a card at random. And then the hit effect on the boost, return a card from discard pile to hands. Extremely high value for Treasure Knight here. Also prevents Bang from moving out, which is something he probably wanted to do at that point. Yeah, it looks like Treasure Knight's going to see what that discard is before deciding what card to return from discard pile. This makes sense. Got rid of a block. Alright. Well, 8 life discrepancy. It's going to be Treasure Knight's turn with full hands and 3 gauge. Picks up a focus. Okay. Probably not going to hold that in hand for very long, because it's pretty risky to hang on to a known normal. But might be planning on playing a reading right away. Could also exceed, or could just play another boost. We'll see. Typically, Treasure Knight will exceed ASAP, because Treasure Knight's exceed mode is much, much better than his normal mode. Yep, here we go. When you exceed, pull up to 3, so Treasure Knight pulls Bang into the corner. Is now going to have to discard a card after drawing an end turn. Discards that assault. So Treasure Knight's ability now applies at all times. Whenever Treasure Knight spends force, he may generate a force for free. So basically, all his force costs reduced by 1. If you need to pay 2 force, you pay 1 force. Or rather, you discard 1 card to generate 1 force, because the other one is already generated through your ability. Same thing. Looks like Bang prepared, making it Treasure Knight's turn. Alright, Bang did not exceed right away, which is a little bit interesting. Typically, in order to make up this kind of deficits, you'll rely on either a few very expensive snap plays from hands or a weighty exceed mode, at least speaking in general for Season 5 characters. Bang has an extremely powerful exceed mode. It doesn't look particularly impressive, but it is. However, it doesn't look like he's set up the best for it. His exceed mode relies on him having cards in his gauge that he wants to recur using his exceed mode to create EX attacks, to then either trade positively or win outright. Alright, looks like Treasure Knight's going to play Diving Suit again. When you're hit, you may spend 2 force if you do +3 armor. Yep. So again, that force cost paid for by Treasure Knight's character or exceed ability, and then the when you're hit effect will also be 1 force, just like it was the first time. So this is much more efficient this time. And if Treasure Knight's looking to just sit around and trade with Bang, this boost makes a lot of sense. Yeah, note that Treasure Knight did not get rid of that focus from earlier, but it makes sense actually, because at this range, focus is extremely hard to punish, and with this boost up, it's virtually impossible. Like, this boost means that focus would have 5 armor total, which means it isn't even stunned by Void Tempest Kick, the Ignore Guard attack that I mentioned earlier. Alright. Well, it's Bang's turn. Bang's under a decent amount of pressure right now. Yeah, so to elaborate on how Bang's exceed mode works, when Bang exceeds, he'll pay his 4 gauge, add those to his overdrive area, since he is a Season 5 character, and then strike. But his overdrive effect, which I can't look at right now because it's only the start of the card, means that those cards from his overdrive will be cycling back into his hand instead of just going to discard and going away forever. Well, not forever, you know what I mean. So the question is, how valuable is this set of cards for recursion? And in this board state, not incredibly. The other thing about that is that it returns all copies of that card from his discard to his hand, so he wants to have, ideally, the other copy already down to get full value. That's not to say that he should just throw cards away to make sure that he can recur them later, because then you're just throwing away value right now in hopes of getting value later. Use everything as much as you can. That's the ninja way. Alright. The turn is still banked. Looks like a parry. Knocking out that focus from earlier. Alright. That's reasonable. Treasure Knight doesn't have anything else other than focus, block, and of course anchor launch with printed armor as far as specials go, and he doesn't have gauge for ultras. Oh darn, there it is. I was about to say, so Treasure Knight can't hit for armor, meaning he's still vulnerable to Void Tempest Kick. Well, that's not true anymore, so never mind. Yeah, so with Salvage Operation and Diving Suit in play, that is easily 4 armor on any strike, plus a bonus power and then a hit effect for recursion. This is very stable. It's going to be hard to disrupt this Treasure Knight and overcome the just sheer amount of armor that he's putting out. Alright, double jump. So, advance 3, and then if you move past the opponent, move 1, then draw 1. So Bang advances 3, and then he moves to either range 2 or range 4, and draws a card. And then draws for end of turn, and now has to discard due to hand size. Alright. Well, that makes sense. I believe both copies of Treasure Coin are now down, and both copies of Anchor Launch are certainly down. Not Anchor Lunch, that would be something else. So Bang has more options at range than Treasure Knight does. Alright, Bang getting rid of a Grasp. I believe that's the second copy. It is now Treasure Knight's turn. Let's see, at range 4, Treasure Knight can still threaten dive, but I think only dive. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, what have we here? Paying 3 force, one from the Exceed ability, and then discarding 2 cards to advance to range 1. Yeah, makes sense. Treasure Knight is now smack dab in the middle of the board, which is actually great for him. This means it's going to be hard for Bang to get particularly far away. At most, Bang could get to range 4, and then Treasure Knight would come back in, most likely, leaving Bang kind of stuck in the corner. Heavies tend to hug the center. The less mobile your character is, the more you want to hang out in the middle 3 spaces, because that limits the amount you have to chase your opponent. Bang is extremely mobile, so like most mobile characters, he doesn't necessarily need to be in the center, he can be wherever he wants. He will tend to travel toward the corners as he's evading opponents, and then back into the center when he gets himself cornered. What do we have? Alright, so that is +1 speed, now advance 2 and strike. Okay. At range 2. There's not a lot that's scary here. I believe this could be the second Fatal Eruption. Note that that force cost was paid before by this Ultra, by the way. You can discard an Ultra generate 1 force. It's perfectly legal, just not very common. It's just that the remaining options are just too important to spend. So yeah, Fatal Eruption is a 5 power Ultra, which Bang can definitely afford. So it would be just enough to break through this armor. It would also shove Treasure to the corner and close Bang to range 2, I think. Pretty sure Spike is down. There's Fatal Eruption. Oh, EX Cross. It's not Fatal Eruption, it's Insulpable Palm Thrust. Either way, though, that EX Cross is speed 7 over this speed 6 attack. so the cross is going to be faster. That is a 5 power cross. Retreats, there you go, 3 spaces. Well, technically does the hit effect first. Technically, discards a copy of cross on reveal, then does the hit effect. Then retreats 3. But if they're not planning on, if Treasure Knight's not planning on returning his cross, then doesn't need to worry about it. Alright, Bang was trying to hit this Unstoppable Palm Thrust to push, gain advantage. Wouldn't do any actual damage, because it couldn't overcome the armor. Alright, it looks like Treasure Knight has chosen to return Anchor Launch. Alright, belatedly dropping that copy of Cross. And discarding those boosts from play. Alright, being initiated. That Unstoppable Palm Thrust is gone. As is the Infinite Chaos Fist of the Void that was used to play it. I believe that means both Infinite Chaos Fist of the Void and both Unstoppable Palm Thrust are down, one of them being Engage. So Treasure Knight picked up a copy of Anchor Launch, a very potent attack. But not impossible to evade. The question here is, if this comes into play, does Bang have a cross to run away, a dive to jump in, or perhaps a shuriken in conjunction with a cross or an assault to give him either option? Actually, even shuriken Fatal Eruption would give him that option. Alright, looks like not going to initiate just yet, boosting Sunken Treasure. Alright, at the start of each of Bang's turns, Treasure Knight puts the top card of his deck face down under this boost, and that pile will just accumulate. Nobody gets to look at them. Whenever this boost goes away, all those cards will go to Treasure Knight's hand. This is fairly interesting. In my experience, this typically means that a reshuffle is coming soon. But this is a little earlier than I would expect to reshuffle, depending on what's in that hand. We know when Anchor Launch is in that hand, we don't know what else. Alright, double jump, advance 3. Yep, did not move past the opponent, so doesn't get the second effect. That'll end Bang's turn. Alright, High Tide. Alright, so that is a total of +2 armor and +2 power, and now there's a before effect. You may spend 2 force to push 1. Although useless against focus, and cards with the same passive effect as focus, which prevents the opponent from moving you, this before effect is excellent at allowing unusual attacks to land. Alright, Bang, boosting light. +2 speed. That makes the remaining Void Tempest and or Dive, I've lost track at this point of which are left, very, very powerful. Although not unbeatable, I think we have not seen any copies of Scuttle Slam on Treasure Knight's side, which is a Speed 6 special. Notable for being Treasure Knight's only on-curve card, I think. Yes. Yep. Notable for being Treasure Knight's only on-curve card. I almost always play this for the boost myself, because the attack is fairly underwhelming, but sometimes you absolutely positively have to have an on-curve card. Particularly if you have the EX. Alright, initiating with 1 card from hands, and turning those sideways so we don't lose track of which cards are which. Makes sense. Yeah, notably those are not boosts in play, they're basically out of play, actually. They're just kind of under this boost, in an area all their own. Whoops, apologize for the second music track that was playing in the background, I did not notice that. Sit back and enjoy the mellow tones of BCO while we watch this very chill, not at all stressful tournament game. I don't believe there's any guarantees here. If Bang still has a dive, that beats everything except for Scuttle Slam. Void Tempest would do the same, actually. It's Void Tempest. It's Scuttle Slam. That will lose. Alright. Bang loses the speed tie. That is a 5-power Scuttle Slam. With, let's see... Yeah, not used them before. Hit, spin up to force, so... Yeah, Treasure Knight may choose to push Bang 1 or 2 spaces. Pushing 1 would be free, thanks to Treasure Knight's Exceed ability. Pushing 2 would cost an actual card. Alright, chose not to push, and then when this boost leaves play, adds those stockpiled cards to his hands. Alright. That was Treasure Knight's initiative. It's now Bang's turn. Huh. That was 5... Yeah, 5 damage. Yep. Okay. Impressive. Treasure Knight calling out play after play. And just playing overall reliable tanky stuff. Alright, that is a change cards 4. Oh. No, that's a scoop, excuse me. Alright. Banazama concedes, which honestly had an 18 life deficit against Treasure Knight. Yep, makes sense. I won't contest this. Sometimes I look at people who concede and I'm like, you didn't really need to concede. This one makes sense to me. Alright, well that will decide game 1 of the round in Chykka's favor. Alright, so, while they set up for the next round, I'm going to switch back to this loading screen. Remaining characters are Iaquis and Chun-Li for Chykka, and then all 3 of Ragna, Hazama, and Bang for Banazama. Players are secretly choosing their next characters. Alright. Looks like round 2 is going to be Hazama versus Chun-Li. Let's see if I can do this correctly. Okay, back we go. Let's see. Yep, so Banazama, as loser of the previous round, gets to decide who goes first, chooses to go first, draws 5, Chun-Li draws an extra card. Whoops, I need to turn that off, I guess. Thank you for the follow, though. I just don't want that coming up over the game in progress at the moment. Alright, yep, still deciding mulligan. And Hazama's up first. Okay. boosting Bloody Fangs. Now draw 1. After the opponent is stunned, draw 2. Interesting gamble here. Alright, Chun-Li initiates with 1 card. We have a Venom Sword into a block. Okay. Interesting. Venom Sword, maintaining its value, just kind of gets to draw a card. And then that's 4 power into the block, which Chun-Li pays a force to take no damage. Yeah, the Venom Sword not particularly likely to stun, but clearly predicting that Chun-Li wasn't playing an attack that was intended to hit. Ooh, okay, this is a bit more exciting. Your force costs are reduced by 1. Now you may strike if you do the opponent sets their card first. So the importance of this is how it relates to Hazama's character ability. So when Hazama initiates, which this does count as Hazama initiating, after setting his attack, he may pay a force to place an Ouroboros in a space at range 1. He has 2 Ouroboros cards. One of them says that he does move, one of them says that he doesn't move. He'll place it face down, hiding it from the opponent. So this boost messes with that order so that the opponent has to set their card before they even know if he's using the Ouroboros in the first place. So now Hazama has to decide, is he going to move forward or backward or not at all? If you had trouble following that, it will probably be clear when you see the Ouroboros come into play on a different strike. This one is changing the order. Alright, yep, Hazama pays a force using this boost, and then plays the movement Ouroboros, and sets Sweep. Okay, comes into range 3, hits the focus, which is not the worst wild swing. Deals 4, sweeps a card, and then Chun-Li is not stunned, so she will draw a card. It is now Chun-Li's turn. She prepares. As does Hazama. Back to Chun-Li. So Chun-Li, I guess I haven't talked about their character abilities. Sorry. After Chun-Li plays the boost, she may retreat 1. Resolve just means when an interest play after any immediate effects. So if she plays Reading, for example, she names the card, then she may retreat. Or not. Her choice. And then everything else happens. She sets her attack, opponent sets their response or reveals a hand if they don't have the copy of the card the normal that she named, so forth. Maybe Reading was too wordy an example. I should have mentioned different boosts, but whatever. So yeah, basically she can retreat whenever she plays boosts. Neat. Her Exceed mode is far more powerful. Not unlike Treasure Knight, she typically wants to exceed ASAP, because the value is immense compared to her frontside ability. We'll just have to wait and see if it comes up. Alright, we have a parry. Technically you should wait for the result of the parry before deciding to retreat. Looks like it's successful, parrying Eternal Coils of the Dragon Serpent. Alright, and she did choose to retreat, moving to range 4. Yeah, this is a very strong Ultra, so it makes sense to get rid of it. In particular, its speed and range make it able to contest many of Chun-Li's attacks. Hazama doesn't have 3 gauge yet, but he probably will soon. Alright, here we have another copy of Bloody Fangs. That is the second Devouring Fang gone. It's unusual to drop both copies of a card this early, especially as a neutral tool when it isn't exerting much pressure. However, Hazama may have just evaluated that he's not going to be able to use this attack against Chun-Li because they're not going to be at close ranges very often. She likes to back away a lot. Alright, Chun-Li initiates. I was about to say, is this the other block? Well, no, probably not. It could still be Spinning Bird Kick. There we go. Kiko Ken, her projectile, or even a cross, or flipping axe kick, an above curve attack at range 4. Unlikely to be the flipping axe kick, since that's fairly likely to get her stunned on reaction if Hazama plays something defensive. And she does not want to get stunned, because then he gets to draw a bunch of cards. The question is, how will Hazama respond? With a wild swing, alright. Dive into... Oh! Oh, wow! That was a bold Kikoken. Really making a not getting hit by the dive here. Hazama comes in, hits for 5, and draws 2 cards thanks to that boost. In addition, that was Chun-Li's initiative, so now it's Hazama's turn. He is at close range with an abundance of resources. And up 10 life to boot. Whew. Yeah, initiating with a Soul Kikoken with no crit. Very brave. Much like the Venom Sword, apparently, or the turn 1, I should say. Much like with turn 1, betting on Hazama not actually being able to enforce his threat. Which, to be fair, he didn't from hand. But if the option you need is not in your hand, it's in your deck. You're not without it. Yeah, typically Kikoken doesn't get played this early except against other characters who like to play projectiles, and Hazama does not like to play projectiles very much. He wants to hang out in close range, play mix-ups, or at mid-range, play pokes. Pokes are a bit different from projectiles. Projectiles need to be good at range 4+. He has one attack that's good at range 4, and that is Venom Sword. At least until he has Gauge, which, okay, to be fair, now he does. Alright, looks like he paid a force for the Ouroboros. He may or may not be backing up to range 2, we don't know yet. And a set his attack. She responds to the Wild Swing. Not gonna play the guessing game here. Well, this will make up some grounds. So he is backing up to range 2, and then we'll retreat 3 to range 5. This does not stun Kikoken, so she gets to hit. Does 4 damage and then moves 1. Perhaps more importantly, this gets her a Gauge. 1 Gauge left and she'll be able to exceed. Hazama has now established range 5, which is a range she probably doesn't actually want. Chun-Li chose to retreat with her after effect. And then she prepares. Yeah, at range 6, Hazama does not have any threats, so she can kind of sit back and chill. The only real threat to her right now is if Hazama plays reading and calls out a dive or an assault, forcing her to come back in when she doesn't want to. That would be a very cheeky play. Very unreliable, and therefore, in this case, unlikely. Alright, Hazama closes to... is deciding exactly how much he wants to move. Definitely moving at least 1. Has paid 1 force. And another force. Alright. Yep, goes to range 4. This makes sense. At range 5 or greater, Hazama is essentially helpless, so... moving to range 4, where he at least has options to threaten, makes sense. Now with 2 Gauge, Chun-Li can threaten... I mean, same thing, but... can threaten Kikosha, which is an attack that dodges attacks at range 4 or greater. It's a very good defensive tool. It doesn't hit the opponent in this situation, but, you know, might make her safe against something like internal coils. The drawback of this being that if it fails, for example, if Hazama were to play a dive, this would just get stunned, and then she's out 2 Gauge, and also this whiffs, so she has 0 Gauge. That is a devastating loss condition, making that, again, very much a hard read play. Very much not a play you make unless you're super confident or you just want to be bold. Alright, we have Ignore Guard, now Strike, with 1 card. The Telegraph is flipping Axe Kick, and also that was paid from Gauge, which means Kikosha is out of the question. Alright, here we have a block, and this is Dive, okay? Alright, an on-curve dive, that'll do just fine against any of Hazama's options that aren't his Ultra. And 5 power, so either he pays 2 force, or he is going to get stunned. Now that doesn't ignore armor, so if he pays 2 force, he'll have 6 armor, take no damage, then not get stunned. Hazama's choice. Alright. Discarded a dive and a Rising Fang. That is the second copy of dive. Took no damage. Gets that Gauge. Yeah. It might seem odd that Chun-Li spent a force from Gauge, but note that the hit effect on Guard Crush means that she has 3 Gauge after hitting. So she wasn't at serious risk unless that ended up getting stunned out by an Eternal Coils, which was admittedly a risk that she took, but it's not one that came to pass. Alright, it is now Hazama's turn. Preparing. Back to Chun-Li. typically Chun-Li will exceed right away. And there it is. Alright, now for the exceed mode. First half of the ability, exactly the same. After you resolve a boost, meaning when enters play after all immediate effects, you may retreat 1. And then for each continuous boost you have in play, your attacks have plus 0 to 1 range. That is phenomenal. That means she can play a boost back up, and she didn't even hurt her own ranges, because she still has the ability to hit you. Alright, looks like Hazama's going to exceed as well. Alright, Hazama doesn't have any particular when you exceed effect. These go into his overdrive area. So his ability is now upgraded to let him place both Ouroboros cards, making his mix-up more flexible, and he can place them within ranges 0 to 2, meaning instead of just 1 space of movement, he gets up to 2 spaces of movement, or if you're crossing up the opponent, 1 space that crosses up, which normally he can't do at all. He also has an overdrive effect, which essentially steals the opponent's life as time passes. That's reasonable. Typically he'll hang on to his ultras, typically if Hazama hangs on to Gauge, he does it because he wants to play an ultra. His ultras are going to be very hard to play against Chun-Li here. One of them only works at range 1, and Chun-Li will probably not be at range 1 very often, if at all. Where is that? And the other, we've already seen, is a good ultra, but at range Chun-Li will typically be faster. Like, if she's worried about this, she'll find a way to beat it. She can boost lights, and then now she's got +2 speed, and her assault can still hit, because assault hits at ranges 1 to 4. If you're Chun-Li with a boost in play. That sort of nonsense. Like, it's not a reliable attack against Chun-Li. Well, exceed mode Chun-Li. You know, for normal mode it's called Chun-Li. Should the exceed mode be called, like, Chun-Lier? Chun-Liist? Alright, Chun-Li's turn. She's probably going to play a boost because she's in exceed mode. Playing a boost is massively to her advantage. She does probably want to be a little bit aggressive now, so that's a bit hard to combine with her desire to play boosts and have boosts in play. Typically she'll pass turn by playing a boost. Oh, here we go. This is a reading, and she is going to retreat. She named... Well, we don't know what she named. We'll find out in a second, probably. Oh, it did not work. Alright, she didn't call Block Focus or Spike. She probably called Grasp. That's like the easy reading, right? You back up to range 2 or greater, and then you name Grasp, and now your opponent doesn't know anything. You have hinted at nothing. Yep. Block Focus Spike, Falling Fang, Super Snake Kick. Players are permitted to take notes, so we just saw Chun-Li noting down in the chat. Alright, and here's a Wild Swing. Sweet. Alright, that will lose to Spinning Bird Kick here. So, advance 3 and then hit if you move past push or pull 2. Thanks to that hit effect, Chun-Li can push Hazama over to range 4, rendering her out of range of his response. Alright, Hazama's turn begins. She loses a life, he gains a life. And now what will he do? And notably, when you initiate a strike, does not say as an action, it says when you initiate a strike. He could play reading and still use the Ouroboros if he was so inclined. Alright, looks like we're going to see a Check Out My Snake boost. Draw 3 and strike. Well, Hazama is compelled to strike, but now he has a bunch of options to decide amongst. He could also Wild Swing. Looks like he's counting his discard piles to see what is left in his deck. That might be worthwhile. And also Chun-Li's discard pile to see what she has left. She has spent relatively few cards, so there's a wider range of possibilities, meaning her Wild Swings are going to be less consistent than his. They might be better, depending on how bad his remaining Wild Swings are, but they'll be less consistent. Hazama's going to take his time to think about this one. I'm going to update a couple settings here. Is that how I do that? Yeah, it is. That means I do this like this. Yeah, there we go. Close enough. Alright, paying a force to use the Ouroboros. Places both of them thanks to that Exceed ability. So the mix-up is range 2 or 3. She knows for sure that he's moving, she just doesn't know which space he's moving into. Guess I should zoom this text. Both cards have the same back. She does respond to the Wild Swing, not surprising. Looks like we have the range 3 on-curve Assault. She has a Grasp. Alright. Hazama comes in. She whiffs because she doesn't have any boosts in play. He hits for 4, gains advantage. And Hazama's turn again. Alright, start of his turn. Discards a card from Overdrive, which causes her to lose life and him to gain a life. And what will he do now? Alright, check out my snake. It's going to draw 3 and strike once more. Looks like Chun-Li is checking her own discards now. And Hazama's as well. Trying to decide what to use to respond to this incoming strike. Although she doesn't yet know what range he's going to set the Ouroboros at. I'm not sure how to pronounce that word, so I gave it a shot. Alright, well, he has some flexible mix-ups. He probably won't choose to place one behind her. It's not much value to do that. He might place one in his own space. The question is, which of the ranges does he want to threaten? 1 and 2, 1 and 3, or 2 and 3? Like any set of those. With this many excess cards, he could certainly just decide to... Oh, interesting. Okay. Huh. Okay, well, that over there threatens Grasp, because if that is a Grasp and it pulls her into the corner, that gives him phenomenal positioning. Alright, it was not. It is a Falling Fang. He is backing up to range 3 and hitting with an above curve attack for 3 damage and gaining advantage once more. He validates with the focus that we saw earlier. She takes 3. He has push up to 1, his choice. Looks like didn't choose to push. Alright, start a turn, discarding card from Overdrive. She loses a life, he gains a life. And what will he do now? We just saw, by the way, an Assault and then a Falling Fang. This is what we call an advantage chain. You get advantage more than one time in a row, right? So he's now on his 3rd consecutive turn. So he's chaining advantage into advantage. Not likely to do it a 3rd time, but you never know. We're not sure what all he drew. Advantage chaining does tend to be resource expensive, which is why he played both copies of Check Out My Snake to draw a bunch of cards in the process. And even after doing that, he's still down to only 4 cards left. What's this? Paying a force from Gage to use the Ouroboros again. Alright, range 1 or 2. And setting this from hand. Well, we know it's not non-curve assault. It could be assault, but it would be undercurve. With only 4 cards left in deck, that is a total of 8 cards in Hazama's card pool remaining to be available. Chun-Li is checking those discards. Gonna see what the remaining threats are, see if she has a safe play. I believe she wild swung on both of those last 2 strikes, so she's been conserving that hand for when she needs it. This might be the strike she can't afford to lose. Hard to say. Notably, he can't kill her this turn. He just doesn't have an attack that does 7 damage available to him right now. Looks like it's an on-curve cross. She has an invalid ultra, she can't afford that. And then a head stomp, which is going to get stunned. Alright, so he hits for 3. Oof. Well, I do love the 4-5-6 gauge. That was a chancy maneuver, because that's going to put him at range 5 on Chun-Li's turn. Granted, I believe she's out both spinning bird kicks and both Kiko shows. Or Kiko Kins, excuse me. The special. So she can't hit him right now. However, this gives her space, room to breathe. The last thing you want to give anybody with as strong a boost game as Chun-Li has. He has a massive advantage, but he needs to make sure that he doesn't let her set up uncontestable strikes, because Chun-Li could still overturn this. A few good turns with boosts in play will let her have unbeatable strikes thanks to her Exceed ability. We'll see what happens. Let's see, Chun-Li checking her own discard pile. Trying to decide whether to reshuffle, prepare, change cards, most likely. She probably won't strike. She could boost. Checking discards to evaluate what's left in deck suggests one of the former actions. Some amount of resource manipulation. You know, I don't think we've seen the second copy of Eternal Coils. He'll flip back next turn, so he can't move 2 spaces forward, but he could still move 1 space forward, potentially. And then have an Eternal Coils to threaten, and she's down both blocks. That would be a problem for her. But who's to say if he has it? Or even if I'm remembering correctly. I'm not paying the tightest attention, I'm here to commentate. You know, spectate, commentate, have a good time. I don't promise that I'm 100% correct about any of these. Alright, she chose not to retreat, which makes sense. Since she has no threats at range 5, she won't have threats with plus 0 to 1 range at range 6. Yes, she loses a life, he gains a life. He leaves Exceed mode now, having performed the start of turn effect for Overdrive. Alright, it's his turn. So, she has plus 2 power and plus 0 to 1 range. So, if she can hit at range 4, she can now hit. Right, so she's threatening dive and flipping axe kick. I believe there is 1 flipping axe kick remaining. Which would be above curve. Well, above curve is a not quite the way to put it. We're at range 5. The curve doesn't exist anymore. Alright, Hazama prepares. He is regathering his resources. Also giving Chun-Li time. It might be worth it. Time will tell. Seven total cards remaining. Chun-Li gonna take a minute and probably try to figure out what all of them are. She has quite a few cards left in her deck over here. Only gone through about half her cards. There's much less information available on what's left in Chun-Li's pool. Oh, she is going to reshuffle that. Looks like she gave her opponents the opportunity to check discards. And now draws for a turn. Yep. Yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, so importantly, there were both copies of Kikoken and a copy of Spinning Bird Kick in that discard pile. Threats that she probably really wants to have live right now. I don't think we saw any Hozenkas, so that might mean that one or both Hozenkas are live. Alright, looks like Hazama gonna move in. Yep. Nope, that's change cards. Okay, pays 3 force, draws out the deck, and then two more cards total, I believe, if I've counted correctly. Makes sense, gets rid of all the known normals, so there is no reading threats, despite most of his hand being known. No, there's not no reading threat, excuse me. Chun-Li could play reading and call one of these last 2 cards, but the cards that are 100% known to be in Hazama's hand cannot be read. Empty Coils, Venom Sword. Oh, I didn't quite master over that last one in time. I can just do this, can't I? Falling Fang. And Eternal Coils of the Dragon Serpents. +2 mystery cards. Alright, Chun-Li boosts for speed and, of course, range, and a hit effect that gains her advantage and gains her extra gauge. Alright, this situation is getting more and more dangerous for Hazama. So she now has, for example, a speed 6 assault that would hit. Well, I don't know if she has it. She might have a speed 6 assault. Alright, looks like going to boost Serpent's Redemption to move forward 2 spaces and discount force costs. No, Calavantis. If Hazama were to move forward 1 space and strike with Ultra, then Chun-Li would be able to play a Lightning Legs or a Cross to win the strike cleanly. Yeah, so Chun-Li has a total of +0 to 2 range, +2 power, +1 speed, hit, gain advantage, and add this card to her gauge. It's a lot of effects. So right now, for example, she could hit with Grasp, if she has the other copy available. A speed 8 Grasp that hits at range 3 is pretty horrifying. She prepares, pretty comfortable with her position right now. Makes sense. Of course, giving Hazama time to take advantage of this boost is a little dangerous. He's probably going to... Oh, no, that's a parry, actually. Okay, she does have the Grasp. And the Lightning Legs, both Lightning Legs, actually. Both Lightning Legs, excuse me, both copies of Lightning Legs. Yeah, the parry was crossed, evidently, which she does not have. Yeah, so that's Spike, Assault, Grasp, Lightning Legs, which is this card over here. And then Kikosho, the Speed 2 Ultra. Hazama drew for a turn, it's now Chun-Li's turn. It's interesting. I think holding the block, the typical play there would have been to move to range 1 and just force her to do something about it. Since notably your force costs are reduced to 1, or reduced by 1, excuse me, means that block has 4 armor automatically. So you can get decent value out of it that way. Plus, you can take a move action discounted by 1 force, so it's not even that hard to get to range 1. We did see the parry here. Looking for a cross, probably to try to make that Eternal Coil safer. Unfortunately, will not work this time. Well, Chun-Li has options. Kikosho, notably, has an excellent boost on it called Faultless Focus, which she could do a lot of different things with. Let me just, Cost of Force, so she would have to get rid of a card, probably one of the known normals. Now notably, this and her speed boost both say hit odds to gauge. So, if she's planning on using the critical on lightning legs, let me find that. It won't sustain those, it would only sustain the fierce, since those cards are already out of play. Well, technically they're not out of play at the time, but that's not important right now. Not sure stun immunity is good when you have 3 life. Maybe not, but plus 0 to 1 range, now retreat 1 and strike is pretty good. Yep, so she's going to get rid of the assaults, retreat 1, and strike with a card. Maybe 2 cards. If it's 2 cards, it's known. Right. Alright, so this is a mix-up. It's critical. It's still a mix-up. It's just an expensive mix-up. So the Telegraph is 100% lightning legs. That's the only critical that she had in that hands. It could be Spike, though. Lightning legs doesn't actually lose to anything. It just doesn't win very hard. Wild Swing Falling Fang, that is invalid. Nothing actually beats this, I don't think. Yep. Alright. So, she gets gauge. He takes much damage. She gains advantage, and, yeah, that did not have the sustain effect, because it wasn't actually lightning legs, it was Spike. Alright. Alright, Chun-Li's turn. Yep, so this gained gauge, this gained gauge. Looking at those boosts. Alright, and she boosts Fierce, choosing not to retreat. Alright. That got rid of all of her known normals. And since she still has a copy of Kikosho in that hand, she is actually very threatening. If Hazama were to play Eternal Coils here, she would she would dodge it with Kikosho, and then hit him for 9. If he were to step forward and play Eternal Coils, then she could play EX Lightning Legs. So Hazama could decide to make the game spin on a mix-up here, by using Ouroboros, and making her guess which one he did. Or he could take some time and set up to try to secure a guaranteed kill. Yeah, he's burned through a chunk of that life advantage, but he still is up by 15 life. That could evaporate in a matter of 2 strikes if he gets red and crushed particularly hard. Alright, gonna play Having Fun Yet. Hey. Alright, gonna pay 4 force to make Chun-Li discard her hand. Well, sorry, discard 4 cards at random. She happens to have 4 cards in hand. Yep, there it goes. There goes the second Kikosho. Then he may strike. Looks like paying for the Ouroboros. Yep, and setting this. This could be very bad for Chun-Li. Both lightning legs are down. Cross is her fastest card that hits range 3 here. And if he is playing the other Falling Fang, that's going to outspeed it. It is Falling Fang. She criticaled in case she gets the... Oh! She did! Holy cow. Kikoken, yeah. So critical Kikoken saves her life. That has 4 armor on it. So he's going to hit, gain advantage, but he will do no damage. He chooses whether or not to push. But yeah, there's no reason not to critical there, because that's... it's way more important to have the chance of hitting the Kikoken armor instead of just holding onto that gauge. Alright, she needs to move. Yep, she's deciding. Hazama's a little bit preemptive there. It looks like he was starting to play Check Out My Snake, but strictly speaking, she shouldn't know that's happening yet. Alright, she chose to retreat. Yep. Alright. Hazama, Check Out My Snake. Yep. Draw 3 and strike. Gonna try to close this before Chun-Li has a chance to set back up. Depending on what he drew. And does he gonna use the Ouroboros? No. Probably a dive then. Oh, a Venom Sword. Ah, the assaults. Alright, the critical Wild Swing did not pan out this time. She closes 2, and then gets hit for 4, and then push back. Alright, Hazama retires. I will update the sheet. Well, not the sheet, the what's it? The thing at the left. I will update it badly, in fact. Oh, no. Well, I tried. Overlay, thank you. Yep. And we will go back to our transition screen. Okay, well, both Treasure and Hazama have won a game. So that leaves Iaquis and Chun-Li on Chykka's side versus Ragna and Shishigami on Banazama's side. On to game 3. We have been streaming for a little more than an hour, so if you've been following along, get some water. Stay hydrated. It's good for you. Players have revealed their characters of choice. Here we go. Game 3 of the sets. So this is the elimination portion of the tournament, but no one will be eliminated this round, to be clear, since this is the first round of the tournament. The loser of this will move into the loser's bracket, and the winner will progress to round 2 of the winner's bracket. You have to lose twice to be eliminated from the tournaments, at least as I understand it. Honestly, don't quote me on that. That's just my impression of the rules, but I haven't actually read them. Hopefully I'm right. If I'm wrong, I apologize. I'm just going to wildly guess at the tournament rules. That could never hurt anyone, right? Alright. Alright, Iaquis gets to choose and is going first, evidently. Thank you for confirming, Boyman. Oh, we already know our matchup, so I should just go ahead and fill that in. Alright. It looks like Mulligan has concluded. Yep. And Rar. Alright, Iaquis opens with Dragon's Roar. Draws 5 cards immediately. And does not draw or discard at end of turn. So this skips the hand size check. Sorry, what's it called? The draw step completely. Skips the draw step. Very exciting. Now has a much greater possibility for EX attacks. Oh yeah, we saw Bing earlier, but let me just take a look at Iaquis. When Iaquis initiates strike, he may set his attack face up for +2 power. So he tells you what's coming. But if you can't beat it, it doesn't matter. Alright, Bing boosts defend. Bracing for the worst. Notably, Iaquis uses transformations as a 7th cross character. So that icon on the bottom right that says -2, there is a minus on it, it's hard to see. Means that if Iaquis gets any transformations to play, each transformation he has in play reduces his exceed cost by 2. So that exceed cost looks like a 5, but it might be a 3 or a 1 or even a 0. It bottoms out at 0, there's no -1. Just FYI. Good try though. Do we have that reference card over here? Yeah, here's transformations. I'll just leave that up for folks to read it while the action goes on. Well, while the thinking goes on. When the action goes on, I'll shift back to the stage. So as I discussed earlier, Bang has Bang-style Shuriken, a very versatile card in a variety of situations, and it means it's going to be virtually impossible for Iaquis to have a guaranteed victorious strike, especially at long range. Bang style shuriken can almost always defuse it. However, defusing such strikes might well cost Bang more than he's willing to spend. Since Bang style shuriken tends to be a low value card to hit with, it's mostly used to defuse opponent threats. Alright, Iaquis with 9 cards in hand. Looks like that is a face-up Dragon's Flight. Alright. Before advance 3, if you did not move past the opponent, plus 2 power. So speed 4 coming in with 7 power if the board state doesn't change before he gets there. So this trades with focus, loses to cross. There's the cross. It's still a pretty good position for Iaquis, though. Technically the boost would drop first, but Iaquis doesn't care about discard pile order. Oh, thank you. If you ever watch this, Chykka, thank you for fixing the discard pile order. Iaquis doesn't care, but we do. Alright, that was Iaquis' strike. It's now Bang's turn. Now you'll note that Iaquis has 8 cards in hands, but at the end of a strike, you don't have a draw step. So there's no problem here. If you draw more cards than your hand size, but you strike on the same turn, you don't have to worry about discarding. This leads to the tech colloquially known as Big Hand Guile, in particular, but there's a lot of characters who use it. Bang prepares, and looks like we have a transform action. Formerly known as Play a Transformation, fans usually call this EX Transform, because you have to play both copies, just like an EX attack. So Iaquis discards a copy of Dragon Spine to transform Growing Hatred. At the end of each strike, if Iaquis does not hit the opponents, you may draw a card. That could be really, really useful, considering Bang is probably going to be trying to avoid heavy hits, like we saw a moment ago. He's a slippery ninja. He'll also be trying to win cleanly in other ways, like with Void Tempest Kick, or by pushing Iaquis out of range with Unstoppable Pawn Thrust. In any case, as long as Iaquis doesn't hit, he gets to draw a card, so this will help Iaquis maintain resource flow, however things are going. That is a tech, not a face-up dive, to be clear. We can tell because, well, the sweep got discarded. Alright, it is Bang's turn. Yeah, what is a good cards check? Bang advancing to range 2. Yep, this turns on a variety of threats on his side. All it does for Iaquis is basically turn on Cross and potentially Dragon Spine. Dragon Spine is pretty unsafe. Aha! Rar! Iaquis draws 5 cards, going up to 11. This one's one louder than the last one. It is now Bang's turn. So Iaquis makes himself vulnerable to reading by doing this, but on the other hand, it's awesome. Just look. Look how many cards this is. This is so cool. Alright. Also, he potentially has EX attacks, and can be relentless with his offense by striking turn after turn, potentially. Like, having a lot of options means you can kind of pick out a chain of strikes that will work to your advantage, maybe even gain advantage, and then play them out while the opponent has to sit back and regroup. It does run into some trouble if the opponent likes to boost a lot. Bang does like boosting, but he doesn't have a lot of stat boosts. He has niche stat boosts that he uses as tools, just like everything else. It is Bang's turn. So no matter what Bang does, there is going to be the threat of Iaquis responding with an EX attack. That threat is disproportionately higher, because as you draw more cards into your hand, as your hand size gets larger and larger, your chances of having an EX attack get bigger. Alright, boosting larger than life. That gets rid of a copy of Void Tempest Kick, which is notable. For a hit, +1 power gain advantage at this gauge. That +1 power could actually be a relevant breakpoint here. We won't know until we see whatever strike happens next. But importantly, this means that an assault, for example, would have 6 power And Iaquis has multiple attacks that have a guard of 5. No idea if that's what's in mind, but that's the first thing I thought of. Alright, well, it is Iaquis' turn. Striking face down, makes sense. You know what they say about characters with large hand sizes, they like to strike. That, oh, called out. Alright, that was a face down cross, and the response is Pulverizing Blast Jitsu, which is the cross counter. Yep. So Iaquis hits for 2 after armor, retreats 3, and then Bang advances 3, hits for 6 because of this boost. And also gets some positioning control with his after effects, since he was actually hit first. Is either still deciding movement or just deciding not to move. We'll find out whenever the next action gets taken. Iaquis, in spite of being called out and losing the strike, was not prevented from hitting, so his transformation does not go off. He did hit the opponents. There have been a lot of cross counters this set. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, there's only been one this game, but there were several in the last game and the game before. Alright, Bang initiating with an EX attack. Of course, he's not Iaquis, so he doesn't have the luxury of setting it face up. We'll just have to guess. The Telegraph is Unstoppable Palm Thrust. That would lose primarily to Dragon Spine. Oh wait, that's down. Alright, what do we have? It is Unstoppable Palm Thrust. Okay, well that's not particularly great against block. So 5 power, push 2, gain advantage. It's not going to stun Iaquis no matter what. Iaquis may pay 4, so just may take 3 damage. His choice. Oh, you're referring to the cross counter Moriarty. To be fair, at close range, Dragon's Flight is also a cross counter. And if you have the gauge for it, so is Dragon's Descent, although we've seen both copies of that drop. But yeah, like, Dragon's Flight at range 1 or 2 is also a cross counter. Weirdly enough. Paying 1 force, 2 force. Alright. Iaquis takes no damage, and then at the end of the strike may draw a card. It is optional. Looking like no draw. Alright, Bang's going to change cards too. Turn goes back to Iaquis. Nope, Iaquis did not draw. It is, you may draw a card. It's a perfectly legal mistake. I'm fond of that phrase. It may or may not have actually been a mistake, right? Like, this is a decision some players will make. If they don't like discarding at end of turn, they might choose not to overdraw here, because they won't have an easy way to get back down below their hand size. They might also be afraid of reading, although we did just see a focus drop, but it was after that decision. Yeah, no, it is optional, otherwise I would be jumping in. Right? Did I misread it? No? You may draw a card, yeah. This is one of the major reasons I am in the gray seat, by the way. They can't see my cursor. Because they can't see my cursor, they don't notice when I'm hovering things, so I'm not going to inadvertently remind them of things. I actually think that's pretty important. It is up to the players. Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I am in the gray seat. I'm spectator, which means that my hand is not visible. Alright, we have a reading. Unsuccessful. Probably calling assaults, because that is a face-up Dragon's Tail, an 8 power attack. Well, probably 8 power. 8 power if it doesn't get stunned. And Bang's just gonna ignore it. Yep. Bang reveals the hand, plays the block. Yep. Yeah, and I believe Iaquis did choose to draw at the end of that strike. Alright, looks like Bang's using his character ability. Oh, there's the assault! Yeah, as an action, you may look at the top 2 cards of the deck, draw one, discard the other. So it's a little bit like a prepare action, because you're still drawing 1 card, but you get to look at an extra card and then pick one to discard. So you move through your deck a little faster. Alright. Iaquis boosting light. Okay. At range 4, it's not the scariest thing. He is threatening another copy of Dragon's Flight if he has one. Bang boost defend. Iaquis could also have Dragon's Fire. Not usually regarded as a particularly threatening attack, but yeah, sometimes you just need an on-curve projectile. Or in this case, a projectile fast enough to beat Bang style Shuriken. Alright, I believe we are back to... Yep, and there's the Face of Light. Okay, cool. So here we have a Speed 6, Power 7. Pretty willing to lose the trade against a focus here. Yep, alright, so 7 over 3 armor deals 4, and then takes 4. Oh, that doesn't actually lose, does it? That's even. Well, who can count anyway? Alright, and then Iaquis is going to transform... looking like? Thinking? Yes. Alright, transforming Dragon Force. Oh, no, maybe not. Alright. I'll wait. Yes. Oh, okay, they were probably just trying not to get the cards to group automatically. Not so much an issue in real life. Very much an issue in TTS. Bang draws for focuses after effect. No, I think it was... Okay. Yeah. Face of Dragon's Flight does not lose to everything. Unstoppable Palm Thrust is down. Polarizing Blaster 2 wouldn't hit. It outspeeds Shuriken, right? Like, it loses to Fatal Eruption, Focus, Sweep, I guess. Yeah. that said, Iaquis got the hit and got the transform, which is probably what he wanted, right? Like, guarantee a transformation. That means his exceed cost is now 1, meaning he'll be able to exceed pretty much at will. Okay. Yeah, apparently I have to switch view modes to do that. Whoops. To do that. Alright. Sorry for the audio repetition there. I am trying to figure out how to do moderation. Okay. Sorry for my brief inattention to the game. We have a parry successful against Dragon's Hearts. Turn comes back to Iaquis. Boost defend. I think we're back to Bang, right? Yep. Boost lights. Oh, another light defend exchange, and again at an unusual range. They're now at range 1. Let's see, I believe that means Bang must still have a Void Tempest kick up, otherwise there's not much to threaten with this lights. Or cross, actually. Yeah, Iaquis is now out both cross counters, although with defend in play, dive becomes a cross counter at range 1. Strange as that seems. I guess so does Dragon's Fire, but I don't value Dragon's Fire particularly highly. Iaquis checking the discrepa, wants to make sure and track these known threats. Yeah. 13 cards remaining. It's roughly half the deck. But still, half in hand, half in deck gives you a sense of, well, half your starting deck, sorry. Gives you a sense of what threats you need to worry about. Notably, Bang has 3 different specials in his gauge. Iaquis probably wants to prevent him from getting the 4th. But the 4th is Shuriken, which is definitely the easiest one to get in gauge. I believe we have seen no copies of Shuriken drop. This actually also means Iaquis has opened himself up to a very specific Bang play. But I don't know if Bang has access to a focus. I guess we'll find out if it happens. Ooh, light. Okay. For a second I thought it was a face-up sweep, which would be pretty exciting too. Alright, matching speed. Yeah, so this defend means that Iaquis can play fast options reliably without worrying about getting stunned out by something like Infinite Chaos the Void, which is just this unreasonably fast card. It is now Bang's turn. Iaquis checking his own discards. Might be deciding if it's worth it to exceed it this time. I have trouble exceeding as Iaquis because I hate giving up this +2 power. So notably with 7th cross characters in particular, exceeding is always a side grade, it's never a strict upgrade. So they typically forego their front side ability completely. So Iaquis' exceed mode doesn't have this text at all. You can no longer initiate face up for +2 power. That always makes me a little sad because I think it's really exciting to initiate face up for +2 power. Alright, instant info, going to return a continuous boost from play to its owner's hand and then take another action. And then striking. Okay, so often this boost is combined with reading to return a normal and then strike. But returning the spike and then striking telegraphs... Well, telegraphs Infinite Castus the Void, because now Iaquis doesn't have that defend in play. That's a pretty risky play, because I think we still have access to a Dragon's Tail, which would be quite a bit of damage. And the 3rd transformation. Well, we'll find out soon what Iaquis decides to respond with. No, it's not hyper status up. Alright, what do we got? It is cross. It is tail. Oh, playing tail to counter Infinite Chaos Fist, but fails to call out the cross this time, which makes sense. With no defense, cross did not have an answer other than grasp. Note that Iaquis retreated. That was the after effect on Dragon's Tail, by the way. Mandatory retreat 1. Iaquis may add his attack to his gauge at the end of the strike, and then also may draw a card. Looks like he has decided to add his attack to gauge and also draw a card. Alright, both effects being optional again. Alright, it is now... it's now Iaquis' turn, because that was Bang's initiative. To me, this feels like a turn where, if you're going to exceed in the matchup, this is when you do it. We'll find out. Paying force to move, apparently. Or... I don't understand what's happening. I'm just gonna... Okay. Yeah, that was in hand. Okay. Alright, cool. Apparently forgot that it was not in play, so there's no reason to discard it at the end of the strike. Now, probably still going to get rid of it at some point if there's a reading threat live. Which there is. Even if both Foci are in discard, there is actually a reading threat live on Bang's side of the field. It's a little subtle, but it's there. I don't think it's guaranteed though. Not at range 5. At range 4, what would it be? All right, Iaquis does exceed. Okay, gone is the +2 power, and now for the end of turn discard. There's the spike. Yep, makes sense. Okay. Now, when Iaquis sets his attack, that is notably when he sets his attacks, that works on offense or on defense, he may discard a card from his hands, and if he does, he adds before hit and after effects printed. Sorry, I want to see what this was. Okay. before hit and after effects printed on the card to your attack. That refers to the attack, by the way, not the boost. So if the boost had before hit or after, you would ignore those. None of Iaquis' cards actually have that issue, so don't need to worry about it. But yeah, any before hit and after triggers on the attack get combined, get appended, fused with his attack. So means you're probably playing basically 2 cards per strike, but they can be different cards instead of just regular EXs. Hey, if you have an EX attack, you can use that with your ability and play 3 cards in a strike. Heck, why not play Reading, and then EX attack, and then discard a card? Discard your entire hand to have an amazing strike. It's awesome. I play Plague Knight, so to me this feels pretty good. Good flavor text, too. Alright, and then Bang discarded a block, I think that was from Gage, actually, to pay the cost of Set Nail, which gives him a before effect. Oh yeah, speaking of before effects and boosts, Bang has them. Iaquis doesn't. Before, you may advance or retreat 2. Notably, that doesn't mean, you know, move 2, right? That doesn't mean advance or retreat 2. It means you may advance or retreat 2. So you either retreat 2, advance 2, or don't. 3 choices. Alright, Iaquis checking that discard pile. Yeah, so now, Iaquis with a full hand of 7 cards, and a character ability that lets him fuse cards together, is going to try to set up unbeatable attacks more than ever before. Bang down to 10 remaining cards. Iaquis down to 12. Notably, neither player has reshuffled yet. Sorry, I just mean in the first deck, right? Life is still fairly high, but that could turn around pretty quickly. Pardon me. Alright, Iaquis pays 2 force to move to range 3. Passes turn back to Bang. Interesting. Alright, Bang boosts larger than life. Hit plus empowering advantage adds to your gauge. Becoming more threatening by the seconds. Let's see, so Shuriken is the obvious threat, right? That's a speed 6 card, which would have advantage and optional movement, and then potentially whatever else he wants to graft onto it. Shuriken loses to a grasp, discarding a dive or an assault, however. So it's definitely not unbeatable. We know that EX Shuriken is unavailable. 1 copy of Shuriken dropped earlier. I'm fairly sure that the other copy remains. There could also be an Infinite Cast Fist of the Void still alive. I've not been keeping track of that. But that would be a speed 9 card, where Bang can zip forward and hit. Manual 8 gauge Ultra? Bang has 5 gauge. If he hits with an attack, he'll have 7. And advantage. So, I mean, maybe he'll get 8 gauge. Alright, both players checking each other's discard piles. Yeah, this is an important habit. Even if you don't need to, do it every once in a while. That way it's not really obvious to your opponent when you're checking it that it means something important. You don't want to telegraph anything. You don't want to signal that you're doing something in particular. Unless you do, of course. But I leave that to you. You said 2 sets in a row. I don't recall. I'm guessing Banazama did that during the week 5 set, the 5th round of Swiss. Oh, alright, an EX discarding dive. The telegraph here is EX grasp. This could also be potentially a spy? No. No. There's not actually a lot. Pretty sure it can't be focus or sweep or spike or dragon spine or cross. Could be a cheeky assault. Mainly I'm trying to think if there's anything that beats Infinite Chaos Fist of the Void. Not sure. Yeah, I think we saw a light drop earlier. I'm sure of it, actually. Yeah, he played light at range 4. And he also played defense at range 1, so we know it's not either of those. Well, it's possible that Bang just doesn't have Infinite Chaos Fist of the Void. It's also, of course, always possible that I've just missed something. Yep. Bang is going to take his sweet time here. This makes sense. Of 10 cards remaining, there's probably only a few EX attacks among them. And ones that would hit with dive, even fewer. Like, I think we haven't seen any Dragon's Fires yet, but Dragon's Fire wouldn't hit with dive. It is the Infinite Chaos Fist of the Void response. Yep, that's going to outspeed. It wasn't Assault, but it was a Speed 5 printed. So Speed 6 is slower than Speed 9. Bang pays 2 gauge, gains a gauge, needs to... oh, it's optional, actually. But yeah, use it, so, sorry, backing up. Pays 2 gauge to pay for this. Before, advance 2. Hit, dealing 2 damage. Iaquis was stunned, so didn't get the after effect, but did choose to draw a card at the end of the strike. Bang deciding what to return to gauge with the hit effect, returned a copy of Shuriken. Not a particular surprise there, because Bang is collecting the 4 specials in gauge. He now has one of each, at least one of each special in his gauge, meaning he is poised to exceed with Furin Kazan. I'm just going to make sure that my volume is down. Much as I love the song, I'm concerned about, like, getting copyright strikes and such. I think we did see one copy of Hyperstatus Strike drop earlier. If you're not familiar with Bang, you might be wondering what the big deal is and what I'm talking about here. I'll just look at this card here. Yeah, so Bang has an exceed cost of 4. So if he exceeds with exactly 4 different specials, then he'll have 4 different specials in his overdrive. And he has when you exceed strike. Meaning he can then immediately strike with Hyperstatus Strike. That is the only turn on which he can do it, unless the opponent initiates on their turn, I guess. And this attack is, you know, pretty good. I see. Okay. Chykka remarks, tunnel vision the Shuriken too much. So the reason for the EX Dragon's Tongue was to cover Shuriken, and just didn't think about the possibility of a faster card stunning out, and then getting the Shuriken engage anyway. Well, it is Bang's turn. What will he do with it? Oh, I said 2 damage, excuse me. That was a 4 power Infinite Chaos Fist of the Void. So it would have dealt 3 damage, which I think was correct. Notably, if Iaquis has EX Grasp, there is still a response to Hyperstatus Strike. It wouldn't be EX Hyperstatus Step, but I'm also fairly sure that Bang doesn't have access to EX Hyperstatus Step. Both players checking discards. Based on this delay, it's quite possible Bang just doesn't have Hyperstatus Strike in hands. I'm not sure how much damage Iaquis actually took, but it should have been 4 minus 1 is 3, right? Okay. I would have to check to see what's, okay, here we go. Paying 4 gauge to exceed. Exceeding with 1 copy of each special. Pushing the button. This plays music, by the way. That's why I turned my music player off. I apologize for those who are looking forward to it. You'll have to play it yourself. And then striking with 1 card from hands. Well, if this doesn't telegraph Hyper Shadow Step, nothing does. Does Iaquis have a block? Yes. Okay. Yep, so bang hits for 8 power. Iaquis may pay force to gain extra armor. And probably will. Thanks, Moriarty. Wait a minute. Moriarty, does that link actually go to the Furin Kazan song? Maybe I should check that. Alright, paying force. Discarding... I think that was 2 cards so far. Okay. Yeah, that's 8 armor. And then draws for the end of the strike. Yeah, remember the growing hatred. Okay, it doesn't, does it? Alright, well. Alright, well yeah, so that was Bang Strike. Didn't actually take off any life, but did cost Iaquis some resources. And he is in Exceed mode and about to start recurring cards. Alright, Iaquis boost for +4 speed, makes a lot of sense. Well, okay, actually it makes some sense. I'm not sure I'm going to say it makes a lot of sense. There's an issue with that you're about to probably see in a second here. So, start of Bang's turn. Okay. Just wanted to confirm that. Alright, going to return both copies of Unstoppable Palm Thrust. So Bang discards a card from Overdrive, and then returns all copies of that card from his discard pile to his hands. So he discarded Unstoppable Palm Thrust, and then now returns 2 copies of Unstoppable Palm Thrust from his discard pile to his hands. So he's holding EX... Yeah, so I was totally expecting Shuriken. Alright, boosting Set Nail, discarding the Avoid Tempest Kick from Gauge to get it into discard. This feels a touch greedy. With +4 speed, Iaquis probably... Well, actually, with only 4 cards left, Iaquis might not have options. Yeah, Bang just might not have anything to be afraid of. Depends what's left on Iaquis' side. Alright, well, boost is played, now it's Iaquis' turn. With +4 speed, yeah, it really depends what those 4 cards are. I think both copies of Dive are down. Which, okay, admittedly, that is rough. Without a lot of power to go around, that +4 speed does not do a lot at range 1. Oh yeah, so to clarify what I was expecting, which I think several other people were also expecting, was for Bang to return Shuriken to hands, to use instant Ninpo to return Swift Destruction to Iaquis' hands, and then take another action. Your opponent plays boost that costs force, and then you just bounce it to their hand and get another action? It's a pretty good deal. But it's not what happened, I guess because Bang just isn't afraid of Swift Destruction right now. And honestly, yeah, that makes sense. With Set Nail in play, EX Unstoppable Pawn Thrust beats, I think, everything Iaquis has up. I'm guessing Iaquis is searching for answers at this time. It's not often that you have +4 speed in play and you're the one under pressure, but that is clearly what's happening right now. I don't think we've seen any Dragon's Fires, though maybe they were paid for force at some point and I just didn't notice. Okay. Iaquis prepares, evidently, so as a courtesy, tips the hands, because Iaquis drew that last card, leaving no hidden information. Bang returning, that looked like Polarizing Blast Jutsu. Okay. Strikes with one card only. Okay. This is a mix-up. Unstoppable Palm Thrust actually does lose to Grasp discarding Cross, or Cross discarding Grasp in this situation. So, now let's see, what beats Polarizing Blast Jutsu? Not much. Alright, so the Speed 7 spike misses, so Iaquis gets his after effect. And then Polarizing Blast Jutsu advances 3, and then advances 2, using those 2 before effects, because you can do them in either order. Hits for 5. Alright, that gets rid of Swift Destruction. Iaquis deciding whether or not he wants the gauge. Evidently does want the gauge, and then deciding whether or not to draw, does draw. Alright. Well, that was Bang's turn. It's now Iaquis' turn. One, two, three, four, 5. So push 2, retreat 3. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, I'm not sure anything actually beat that Unstoppable Pawn Thrust, at least nothing of these 4 cards. We have a reading. Not bothering to conceal the attack. This is bad form, by the way. If the reading is not guaranteed 100%, then you probably should... Okay. Never mind. It worked out. Alright, so played Grasp, discarded Cross, hit for... yeah, hit for 3, and then push to retreat 3. Okay, Iaquis setting up distance. It is now Bang's turn. Bang will have to decide whether to return Void Tempest Kick or Bang Style Shuriken to hand. Yeah, if Bang has movement boost available, which seems likely, I think we still have a copy of Polarizing Blast Jutsu in the wild, then Bang Style Shuriken affords him an opportunity to jump back in from long range. At range 6, Bang doesn't have anything he can do other than play Shuriken and combine it with movement boost. Well, or play Hyperstatus of Strike if he is set up to do it. But that time has come and gone. Coming up in 2 hours here. Please drink water, stay hydrated. I need to drink more water myself. Alright, Bang does indeed return the Shuriken. Did not search the discard pile. I guess the other shuriken was still up? Whoops. Oh, excuse me. Did not mean to do that. I thought there was one from an earlier instant info. Alright. Well, Iaquis hits first, dealing 2 damage. Does have a hit effect. Probably declines it. Pulverizing Blast Jutsu then comes in, hits for 5, and returns Beat a Nail to the hands. Let me get the text on that real quick for reference. So +1 speed, now advanced 2 then strike. After Exceed mode, so after if you are in Exceed mode, return this to your hands. So that's why that went back to hands. So Bang gets to jump forward, attack, and then keep that boost. Good timing to do it, considering that he'll be leaving Exceed mode on his following turn. I think there is still a... So I think 3 of those 4 cards are known now. Alright. And I guess there were no shurikens to discard pile. Alright, Iaquis changing cards 3. Makes sense. Alright, Bang returns Void Tempest Kick to hands. Yep, and the other copy from discard. It is now Bang's turn. See, after performing that overdrive effect, since his overdrive was empty, and it was still during his start of turn, he flipped back to normal mode. He does not have the gauge to exceed again immediately, but we're probably gonna, yep, there's Beat a Nail, yep, +1 speed, advance 2 and strike, probably gonna see the EX Unstoppable Palm Thrust, but there's a mix-up with the EX Void Tempest Kick. Both are good. Both are potentially deadly. Neither beats block. Question is, what did Iaquis draw? Bang maintaining high pressure offense here leaves Iaquis without much time or room to draw cards. Kind of making up for the very good early draw that Iaquis got. Speaking of, there's Dragon's Ascent, which is going to be invalid. It does not withstand Unstoppable Palm Thrust. This is a 5 power attack. Iaquis needs at least 2 armor, so a focus or a block here will do the job. This is speed 7, power 5, by the way. Well, that is not gonna do it. Yep, nope, cross is slower. Alright, Unstoppable Palm Thrust hits for lethal. And as we can see, there's nothing in the hand to answer. Alright. That decides the game, and that decides the set. The dragon has been vanquished by the heroic ninja of Ikaruga. Like that? Does that look right? Yeah, that looks about right. A glorious battle. Alright, well, thank you all very much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed the set. That is... winner's interview, you say? Well, I'll ask. Let's see. I have asked. They say sure.
Hey.
Thanks for casting.
Hey, my pleasure.
Thanks for casting, D.
That was a great set. Thank y'all for letting me.
Hopefully, the game's going long wasn't an issue for you.
I've had worse. That was fine.
Sometimes definitely took a while. I think the most recent game, I just forgot about the Infinite Chaos was Void, and that just sealed the deal for battle.
Yep. I saw that strike. I was like, I don't think there's an EX left that actually beats this. So, and lo and behold, it did not.
Yeah, I should have just teched his boost and then with my dive, and then started making other plays.
Second. I mashed Void here, but what if I get punished? Was there anything?
Yeah, I mean, it was worth checking the math, right? But yeah, mash DP wins again.
It's kind of sad I didn't get the second Hyper Shadow Step, but you know.
The second Hyper Shadow Step. Yeah. Oh no, he died too quickly. You poor thing. How tragic.
I guess aside from that, I think I missed. If I hit the reading, that would have been great for me, but I didn't. I think exceeding was the right choice, but on the other hand, I was behind on life, so maybe I should have played on front side and then just run my face up EXs, to come back for the life deficit.
I feel like exceeding was correct.
I feel like exceeding was correct. I think the issue was just not reshuffling sooner, because then you didn't have defensive options, and in the matchup, I think ranged focus, sweep, spike combined with assault or dive are really, really good. That's my gut. You know, I'm no expert at any of these characters.
I guess I could have reshuffled when I was trying to weapon my EXs, and I could have just reshuffled instead. I think at that point I think my Dragon Heart, at least one of my Dragon Hearts was still up the deck.
One of your Dragon Hearts was very deep in the deck, I noticed that.
Yeah. I think I just thought I needed to try to win some strikes before he I guess. I tunnel visioned the Shuriken and then the Jitsu a little bit. The Jitsu a bit too much, which is why I played my EX and then just started my dive.
Yep, it happens. It definitely happens. You did miss one into strike draw. I think it was the very first one. Chat got up in arms at you. I'm like, no, it's optional. It's optional. It's fine. It's perfectly legal. You don't have to. But I'm fairly sure you missed one. But in the long run, I don't think that would have overturned the 15 life discrepancy. I don't think that was a big deal. The other games were also solid. Really good Treasure Knight play. I'm glad to see somebody playing good Treasure Knight, because I'm not that good at Treasure Knight.
Yeah, I hope that was a very enjoyable game for folks.
Yeah,
I think that was definitely my most convincing. That was definitely my most convincing win of the tournament so far, and I'm surprised that wasn't this set and in that matchup.
That was really solid.
I mean, yeah, you have to make hard reads against Treasure, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, if you can make it so people have to make hard reads against you, that means you're doing pretty well. I can't do Treasure that well, so I was pretty impressed.
Thanks.
Yep. And then great Chun-Li, great Hazama. I'm trying to remember. I think there was one weird play. This one weird play. Oh no, there was this really interesting exchange, right, where it was Chun-Li had +1 speed at range 4 or 5, and so there was this weird setup of Hazama being able to create a mix-up where he moves in or doesn't move in and plays the Ultra. So if he goes to 3, you have to play Lightning Legs. If he stays at 4, you have to play Kikosho. And I was like, the game could be decided by an incredibly intense mix-up here. Or he could try to set up something actually safe, which I think is what happens. But I
was hoping to be able to play that mix-up, but then Bana didn't give me the chance to do it.
Yeah. What if instead I just decided to win and not let you play mix-ups?
No, I sniffed out at least an EX6 speed. I thought it was cross, but it was Lightning Legs.
Yeah, you paired the cross and you got the EX Lightning Legs, and it's oh yeah, well same thing, same principle.
Same principle.
That was good. I think it was right before you parried it that I was it's not actually, the Speed 6 Ultra actually isn't safe here because it's Chun-Li. Why wouldn't everything hit at range 4? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Sean.
That was good play on both parts. Well, thank y'all again. I'm gonna duck out and close the stream.
Yeah, thanks for streaming.
Yeah, of course.
Good luck to Bano in top 6.
Yeah, good luck in winners and good luck in losers. It's double elim, right? So you're still in.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, fight your way onward. See you later.
Later.
All right. Well, as you just heard me say, if you're watching the stream, I'm closing down. So hope you all had a good time. Thank you very much for joining me. And of course, remember, drink water. It's good for you. Stay hydrated, my friends. Bye.